Welcome to The New Next, a podcast that addresses current events and how they will impact the future. Co-hosted by the inquisitive public speaking champion, Mike McVeigh, and energy, economics, and technology expert, Matt Jensen. Join us as we explore all things energy, economic, tech, and political, and how they will affect our future. Quote, before we say it, who is Alex Hormozi?
He's like this business influencer sort of guy.
Okay, so his quote is, skills are the ultimate hedge against inflation. It doesn't matter if you're trading Bitcoin or seashells. If you are valuable, people will pay you. And now, Matt, why do you disagree with this quote?
No, I don't disagree with it. I just thought it was a great quote. So it's got a little. I guess it sounds good, but it's also, there's a lot of truth in it. I think it's, times like this when we may or may not be going into a recession, but the whole world's changing so much. Like, it's really good to realize that there's so many opportunities to teach yourself, learn new skills that you can make money off of out there. And like, even like Udemy, like courses like that, you can get great courses for $20 where you can learn how to program and stuff like that. So we're kind of in a world these days where if you stand idle, then you kind of are getting left behind a little bit, but there's endless options of stuff to find, to learn. And
well, over the past 2 years, just over 2 years, the world's kind of taken a collective sigh. There's been a pause of sorts. And we've talked about this in other venues. We've talked about it like through Toastmasters, through my other podcast, going out and walking, doing disc golf and stuff. In one sense, this is a horrible time, but in another sense, this is the best time to improve yourself. And we've talked about that a lot, even over the past 3 or 4 months that we've been recording, which, by the way, happy 3 or 4 months. When we were talking about Twitter being bought and what does that mean when this happens? What does that mean? How to prepare yourself. And so since we have this as a quote, I'm going to give actually a couple stories that, if that's okay with you,
Definitely.
Mr. Jensen. One that actually involves disc golf, the way that we became able to get a bond closer. So not long after we started disking, I like that, disking. One of my friends who used to be a very competitive disc golfer here in Oklahoma, his son, who's about the same age as Meredith, maybe a year younger, he decided he wanted to start doing disc golf. And he didn't want to use his dad's set anymore. In fact, I remember in the disc golf Facebook page for Oklahoma City, he was basically like, hey, I've done it with my dad, but I want to get some. Where can I get some disc? Well, over the past 2 years, he's now been one of the top Oklahoma under 16 or whatever discers out there.
Oh, wow.
Like, he's won several. And then he started a disc golf club at his school. Innova, which is one of the major disc makers and product makers for disc golfers everywhere in the world, is now sponsoring him.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Not just the program, but him. Like, he's actually being paid by Innova and they outfit him and stuff because he took a skill that he just had some fun with his dad, ended up to turn it into something. And obviously there's only so many people that can do that specific thing, but Alex Hormozi's saying it doesn't matter if you're trading Bitcoin or seashells. You can, if you're listening to this podcast, you're obviously already a little bit more likely to do something with your life. And that sounds mean, but it's just partially true because you're listening to something other than music, other than sports talk, to try to invest your life to be a little bit better, to learn some more about some of the stuff we talk about. One of my employees, he did this kind of by accident, but he and his wife, again, over the past 2 years, they they hadn't paid off their house, and they weren't living in the best part of Oklahoma City, but they sold their house right at the perfect time, right when the housing market started. Cleared after paying off their house. They cleared like $85,000. And this was a cheaper house than what like Brenda and I even have and stuff. So I want to make sure, like, we're not talking about the nicest house in the nicest neighborhood kind of thing. They went and did some other investing. They bought a new house, or put a huge down payment on it. And now he has enough money, and he's got some friends that they're trying to flip properties and stuff. And he's working on his realtor's license. And it's not, I'm really excited for him. I'm just so excited that he finally had a chance to get some money that he wouldn't normally get. And he and his wife are trying to find ways to increase their wealth in ways that are not hurtful, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And these are two stories just from people that I'm somewhat in contact with. One of them every day. The other one, I don't ever actually think I've seen him and his son for probably till right before the pandemic actually started. But there's so many different things that you can do. And you don't have to be the top. In fact, you might not even have to be the top 10%. You can be down lower, and there's a market for whatever you have if you have something that is worthy.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, I mean, the economy is kind of a cruel beast sometimes. Like, if you have the skills, then you get paid, and if you don't, you don't. But for most people, like, there was a guy that was in Toastmasters with us, and he took like a kind of a computer science accelerated course and got like a really good job and kind of moved away. And he seems at times to be rudderless, almost like not really sure where he was going. And he went out and built these new skills and basically created a whole new life for himself. So I need to
know who this is. I don't think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I'll tell you later. But there's the world's kind of in chaos, and I think both of us don't think that it's really going to end for quite a long time. So, a lot of the stability that we've had in prior generations has been disrupted, and it's, I think, always a good time to focus on building skills. Like we talked about the education and stuff a while back, and that was a pretty popular episode. Had some people reach out and talk to us about that. But, just because you went to college doesn't mean that you have necessarily the skills for today's workforce. And there's
had yesterday's workforce either.
Yeah, but there's a lot of like alternative ways to learn things. And really, if you're actually out there building it and can show examples of it, then that's pretty much the best testament that you can do it. So it's just I don't know. Like, I like this quote when I heard it, and
it's a good quote. If you would like to learn more about the New Next podcast, find us at thenewnextpodcast.com, where you can suggest a topic you would like for us to cover. If you enjoyed what you heard, share the podcast, tell a friend about it, or rate us with 5 stars.